what the Axis, or what I sometimes call UW dialectical, put up about themselves leaves a great deal to be desired if you know women. It's a drama school, drama queen put on. You're supposed to go into this groovy sycophancy to people like the Black Panther Party in Seattle. Oh, the white has crossed a picket line and is living in the dream of its own contradictions. When in reality, they're what Balakian would call touchstone, was a drama school put on. The truth is that women like to wriggle in and wriggle out of relationships. They don't want to be controlled. Some cultures put a high premium on monogamy, and religious cultures put a high premium on monogamy. So they saw the military strategy of staging a one night stand on behalf of Colin Powell and his theater of weapons of mass destruction at the University of Pittsburgh. You know, the type, the backstabbers like Adrian Belew. Who are coming forward with this idea that they have a world writ called Two Virgins. Well, they've imprisoned me, but, you know, if that's what Trump wants to do with Elon Musk and Bill Gates and their home surveillance system of the military industrial complex of the right wing, the fundamentalist tripartite is simply escalating tensions between the command and control by massacring children in Gaza because the issues are still the same. It was 30 years ago. It didn't happen the way that Shulman and Hamas claim, if Hamas is in on this, which they seem to be. It's a sin war. Peter Sinfield, you know, playing both sides. And Roger Waters was instrumental through the whole thing. His attorney was the one selling it to sellout crowds. It's a recipe for permanent absurd theater. What I think they did essentially was looked at a roster of things that people were forced to live with. A list of modern occurrence, so to speak, full of contradictions, like the book Reinterpreting Modern Culture about Nietzsche explains that friction and contradiction creates energy. And even though they were applying the absurd idea that the arrangements of 1979 for the British progressive rock industry were found art about whatever went on with Lennon in 1980. It's absurd theater because they're claiming they didn't know in 1979, but all of the signifiers were in place on their albums in 1979. So you get this applause machine they call popular mass consciousness, which is the same thing, their idea of democracy, the feed into the applause machine. And they saw this phenomenon. of greater empathy building from important people. So Lenin spoke for everybody in the world who followed Zappa, had AIDS, and everything else that came with the 80s culture, who loved Ronald Reagan and were following Ringo Starr to the end of the world. And this divine super phenomenon of empathy is so difficult for them to sense. You know, they hold the hands of girls who have seduced me and say, was there a rapid eye movement blip? Communion with me in secret essence. Was there a rapid eye movement blip? And the phenomenon of empathy that went through Jeffen's cadre, the gays, the politically correct about Israel, the women who love Mick Jagger, Evan Nauer's crew in Salt Chunk Mary. It's so beyond the grasp of mere mortals that they have to exterminate children in Gaza and then take hands with Vince Irini. Do you feel it? Do you feel something? And then Yoko Ono comes prancing. It's because of the laws protecting him. It. And this all makes sense in their interpretation of modern culture. It's hypocrisy as a permanent state of absurd theater. And they dismiss it, oh, you know, their script comes from a song called Envelopes of Yesterday. And the words I've cast, the dust-filled envelope, the ash-filled envelope of yesterday. They just fob it off. Mick Jagger kicked the dust over, operation of the generals, loud lobbing their language. And all of this was being warned about back in 2002 at the latest. You know, Barista explains very clearly how hard I was trying to warn Seattle. But when Seattle is out in the streets with their zombie leadership, take our hands, hold us. Was there a blip in the rapid eye movement? Can you feel the terrors of the children in Gaza? Can you feel? Because they have sublime empathy. Yes, sublime empathy. Issues from Seattle, like the flopping feet of the walrus. Now, what Peter Ustinov's team, Urman Hasi, what am I talking about? Schulman's Uris, Leon Uris, Kirshner. Trinity, that book. What they had in mind was using Saul Brecker as a soul breaker. See, nothing hurts more than being dislocated from the woman of your dreams, right? So they rip it through the android zone, a neuroplasm. And there's a scene in Trinity where they tie the Irish to a wall and he screams because they've killed his beloved girlfriend. And this is the titanic strength that they come wheedling for. Yes, they wheedle for that. They are fixated. They are neurohypnoticians who are getting their jollies on Mackenzie Shirilla. Pappy killers who say knee with a applause machine they call democracy. and they say voila to you. They were so bold as to make a film called Anna and the King when they wretchedly souvenired Midori Goto in the sorrows of my fallen state, vomiting and having seizures on the streets of Iowa. Because I lied. He lied about being tortured. Vomiting and having seizures from an implanted neuroplasm. They said was a lie because they interpret modern culture according to their whim. Pitt's idea of realism is Christianity affirming genocide. And they dare you to cross the picket line. They will do more than slash your tires, boy. St. Louis Post-Dispatch slashed my granddaddy's tires once for the principled crossing of a picket line, which he never denied doing. He was opposed to the strike. Wow, let's see you cross the fundamentalist tripartite picket line. Well, it turns out that I was not informed that this person had what she later claimed was an arranged marriage. I was not informed of that. So it doesn't qualify. It's not even the spooky weapon of mass destruction that Colin Powell Braid was in Iraq, but that he had slipped into Jimmy Curry's drawers for Sean Old Brooks and Spike Old Lee. They played a war game with AIDS that tips their hand. So the question really is, do you buy the stuff about Midori Goto was a prodigy who could have figured out what Gail Burstyn was done and saved the day for John Lennon? I'll tell you what happened. It was that they were prodigies and they were postdoctorates, and they brutalized me to make sure I was barely able to summon a comprehensive understanding of myself, much less figure out all that, and say that the way that she used a grammar stroke, a Blake stroke on the words go to, signified everything that a prodigy would have figured out about Two Virgins Pussy Bowl, which came from John Lennon's mind. Like the 79 signifier look-alike of the girl whose script that was. And they're saying, oh, in the envelopes of yesterday, he could have saved John Lennon, and deny that the evidence is that it's just absurd theater. So they made sure I wouldn't be able to understand. They tortured me as a child. And then they said, our war game about injecting people is found out. And all these people coming to the rescue of the children of Gaza have been warned and warned and warned for 30 years that Israel was extermination happy, genocide happy. And they refused to do anything but make sickening whisper stories about a deaf person in their sophomore grapevine to please Vince Irene and Andrea Swimmer, two of the shiftiest, most underhanded people Pittsburgh has ever produced, because the Black Panther Party says that the barbecue will allow them to legitimately purse snatch the identity of the West. It's UW hocus pocus. The people behind this are Gates, Donald Trump, Colin Powell. So what gives with Putin is that Bush and Andropov had this worked out. Oswald was in Russia because Russia and American Central Intelligence and the KGB were working out a 50-50 deal. And they're putting on a huge, enormous, problematic scare campaign to turn Kuntu Repertoire Theater's drama club stupidities from Black Studies of Pitt into a divine problem from Penis Gabriel's Real Worlds that only Mick Jagger can solve when Roger Waters embraces Hamas and plants the Palestinian flag that he tore from nothing in the winds. You wonder what the answer to this is? It's allowing children to go to school. It's to stop bombing universities. It's to build hospitals rather than destroy them. How hard is that to understand? They say no, the Beatles want revenge for a one-night stand. Yoko Ono can't sleep. She can't sleep. Martin Edelman has told her that Jimmy Curry could have saved John Lennon. So the children of Gaza must pay. And they're not going to get any closer to an answer than to sacrifice the queer ball that Yoko Ono has demanded be sacrificed. And it's this whole song and dance that's going on. This whole stupidity from Paul McCartney's asinine mind that has been going on amounts to an absurd theater farce. We can't turn back the clock. We're stuck with the situation. I don't see how it can be changed. But these people who are circling me demanding that for me, my money, the answer is to stop lying about me and leave me alone. That's the way I see it. They've done so much harm. They should pay me for my work and my injuries. Because none of the things that they've alleged about me were even remotely true. None of them. The forces impinging on the persona's experience were subjecting the persona to successive degradations of the X motive by their own admission. It was their whole script. Now you wonder, these youngsters like Owen Jones, what's with Jimmy Curry? I was born in 1960. I could hardly ignore, escape, or evade the incredibly loud power of the 60s music machine. I could hardly avoid it. It was everywhere at full volume. And I was younger than the people who were responsible, so I was at their mercy. I don't understand how anybody can feel safe listening to themselves when they don't admit that they were being warned about this very problem that now has emerged for 9 months in Gaza, for 30 years before it happened, because they refused to contradict Robert Fripp's sister when she said that virginity proves rape. An absurdity, an absolute absurdity on behalf of the people who they claim killed John Lennon, because I knew nothing about it. That was the crime, by their own admission. By their own admission.